Okay, here we go. Take one. Welcome. What could possibly be the first Graybeard Astrology video. We'll see how I'm at editing or putting this together. So I'm just going to slowly start talking about stuff. I don't know if this is going to be a 5-minute video or 15 if I start rambling. Welcome. My name's Jim. Wanted to start my astrology video or YouTube channel for years now and stuff, and I'm finally starting to get my act together. Anyway, so I've been studying astrology for since 1996. It's always been in my life one way or another, entertainment wise and stuff like that. But I got into always reading stuff and everything. In one book, floodgates opened. All of that. People that are into it are familiar with you're getting really interested in it and stuff. So I'll stop right there. I'm sure I'll ramble about my personal experience and stuff like that over the years. I'm sure I'll ramble about that later. But what I want to do first with this first video and stuff is I'm kind of looking at this like I'm going from the beginning, and there's a lot of people out there talking about astrology and stuff like that, obviously. But I'm going to pretend like the viewer is kind of beginning and just being entered into learning more about it. I mean, most people have heard of astrology and familiar with their sun sign and stuff like that, but it's such a deeper subject, the current astrology, what we know as Western astrology that we practice in America, U.S. and the Western world, is approximately 2,000 years old. And the fun, what I've found, more fun than anything, is going back into the history of stuff. I got, interested, 25 so years, 30 years ago. And the more I've studied, the more interesting the old material is. And when I say old material, it kind of starts like the last 130 years is the new stuff. And then everything goes back from there, within centuries and centuries and centuries. And I'm sure in other videos I'll cover a lot of the history and stuff, because I find it so interesting. The last 120 years or so, with the turn of the century, the 1900s and stuff, things changed, and it's a whole thing in its own right. Anyway, what I want to do is consider you guys somewhat of beginners and stuff like that, and curious and stuff like that. And I want to go through some tools to get you started, because you got to have a birth chart to have the for your personal interest, for your personal chart. So we're going to start here, and one of the things I found a long time ago was this awesome web software, and it's free. It's open source, I believe you call it. It's called Astrolog, and it brings up a chart like the one I just popped up. And I did all kinds of personalizations to what you're seeing here. The graphics. You can switch the colors around and stuff to your preference. I like having the gray because you can see the planets and stuff really well. They do list the exact degrees of the planets over here on the right. It's get a little hard to see sometimes. A lot of other software has the numbers right by the planet glyphs. Anyway, I just think this just looks really nice, is why I like it. It's free, so, and the black background default is something I like. And there's a lot of tools, to play around And recently, what you do is you come over here to info, then you said set chart info, and it brings up this box, and then you can put the date or the time or the event date or the person's date in this information here. And initially, don't worry about the latitude and the longitude. Just plop it in and see what happens. Eventually, you're going to want to know your time zone. You're going to want to know your latitude and longitude. But just to begin with, don't be worried about that. And then it will bring up a chart for you. And what it does is it brings up the chart of the moment once you have the proper details in there. And that's what's great about it, is because you could just come over here at any time, click the little icon, and bam, you got a chart for the moment. And it's really interesting to watch as the ascendant changes. Just the mood of the day change, the mood of the moment, it's a really interesting way. A lot of what I've found about astrology is observing the world of other people and yourself. Anyway, so that's one tool. I might go into that more detail later on with how to change things. There is, let's talk about it right now. So, edit. Save chart info and save programmed settings. So when you do go in here to change your information, when you're done and you make the chart on the screen like you want it to, you just come over here and hit the file button and then save program settings. So whatever you change to the chart will make the program always do that. It took me a long time to find that button, because what I would do is go over to help, and then I would go to data, and then I would go open default settings. And that would bring up the actual code, if you will. But if you see here, your location and your longitude and latitude can be changed right in this area right here. So, but I'm getting too technical off the bat here. I just wanted to stay generic. In the Windows 11, you have to close this out and save changes. Otherwise, it won't take effect. So, I hope that's, just for a quick explanation that might be useful to some people. What's most popular is you come over here to this website. Astro.com is very, very popular. And what I wanted to show to people is some really interesting extra tools that they have here that 25 years ago I found fascinating. I sat and read over and over and over. But also here, you can come up with a chart of the moment right here with this little icon up here on the right. Click on that, and it'll give you the location of the planets in the current moment. And then you click on this chart of the moment, and it will give you a drawing of the chart of the moment. And, well, that's a bit excessive. Yeah, I didn't want that. Anyway, you could expand this to your liking on your computer. This screen's new to me, so anyway, you could bring that up at any particular moment. It's really useful. Also, it has the dark mode, which I like. You come over here, and once you create your account, well, let's just do that. Do that first. My Astro. So you want to go to your profile. And you would come in here and put your email in, obviously, and then you want to add data. And then you'd, fill this out. It's very important to have the exact time of your birth. And, if somebody says, 1 o'clock or 1:30, anytime there's quarter of the hours, I get suspicious. You wanna see, like, 205 or 208, or some oddball number would be really ideal. But if you now, to other people that might not know their birth time, don't freak out, because I've seen a lot of people get very upset about that. They're very curious of astrology, but they don't know their birth time. There's ways around that. Don't be upset and everything. Round it off, or you make a noon chart, which is 12 noon, right? So you make a noon chart. If you don't know a ballpark of what it is, so you just use that and go from there. There's a whole subject in astrology called rectification, where you use life events to tweak the chart and play with it and stuff, and try to come up with an ascendant. So it's a bigger subject there. I'm already going off on tangents. Anyway, fill this out, then hit continue, and you'll end up back at the profile page, and then you end up with a list of people here, and you can keep adding. So what I'm going to do is, what I like to use is the free. So under free horoscope, you go to astrology, drawing data, and then extended chart selection will bring you to this page. And this gives you an option of all the different charts that you can bring up, which is just unbelievable. I mean, most of this is very, very the deep end of the pool. But just generically, we're going to leave these, and then you could come down here and add and change things. Now, the house system, I like to use what's called whole sign. It will default into Placidus. So once again, whole subject to talk about house systems and stuff. And there's all kinds of different things you can add to the chart here and stuff, but every one of them's kind of like a whole subject in their own right. So just generically leave it with the tropical zodiac, because we're using Western astrology. Sidereal astrology is also known as Eastern astrology or Vedic astrology. Very popular in India, in the East. But we're going with tropical and whole sign. So then you hit show me the chart. And this will bring up the chart. And this chart now, there is a lot of pop-ups lately, last couple of years. So just get rid of those. So now you bring up this chart here, which is the chart of Marilyn Monroe. And what you can do, you click the chart, and it'll bring up a fresh page, and then you right-click and save it, and it'll save it as a file, and then you get the bigger page, and it's nice and clean and stuff. So we'll go back to here, and then you have your chart. Now, obviously, if you're not familiar and stuff, this just looks like a bunch of gobbledygook. And the stuff down here looks very confusing, but everything kind of means something. And if you look real close, you'll see the longitude and latitude written up here. And now you made this chart, so now you know your longitude and latitude. So you could come back over to this software, and then you can punch it in for your location, for your real-time chart, to have that set. Okay, so we're looking at this. This is called the birth chart here. And then down in the corner on the left, we have all the planet names. And then this first row is the degrees that the planets are in the sign, any particular sign. It's 30 degrees in any particular sign. So it'll be listed here of its location. Next to the abbreviated sign names, there's what's called minutes. And it's kind of like a decimal point to the degree changing. But, people round up. If it says, the sun at 10 degrees and 26 minutes, People would actually round that up and call it a 11-degree sun, but, tomato. Over here, towards the right side here, is a key, and it's like, it shows the glyphs of the planets, and then it's got all these different color things, and they're just cheat codes to kind of universal language of what's called aspects. Little squares, little triangles, indicating trines and squares. All stuff to learn, but they do correlate. You'll see like a red square. They correlate with the red line here on the natal chart up on top. So it's a very similar thing. And that's where they are getting that. They just put it in a key down here for a quick glance. I've really never used it. I just look at the chart and see the squares, but it is pretty neat. Over here, we have another key. And then we have the elements, fire, earth, air, and water written. And then we have cardinal, fixed, and mutable, which is the, elements and the modalities. So I'm going to actually switch screens here because I just noticed I'm in the way. So then what we do, so now we have the chart, and we don't, maybe, not nothing, or you do. But what I wanted to show is these tools on this page. So you come down here to today, tomorrow, and you have personal daily horoscopes will bring you to a page like this. And there's just it's a little abbreviated everyday little horoscope that it's personal for you. And it'll tell you, there's a little line down here that says like moon opposite Uranus. That's called an aspect of a transit. So it's saying that the transiting moon is opposite your natal Uranus planet. Right, and then this is an explanation of that experience or effects and stuff like that. Usually very passive, and it's kind of interesting. And you get those every day, and it's not incredibly accurate. It's kind of generic, but it's something to get you started. And there's other transits occurring the same day, with other explanations. And then down here, there's long-term transits. Now, I believe on Thursdays, you can read some of these for free, FYI, right? Because this is behind a paywall. But you do get this little bit every day, which is nice. So then you come back over here. So that's personal. Then you can get these other different little free tabs. This short report, I've always found this really interesting. So this will give you a couple of the more long-term transits or long-term influences, and a couple more paragraphs. It's mostly taken from a few books that were written, and it just spits them out, but these are long-term transits and long-term experiences with a little bit more influence. I found it really helpful years ago. There's probably even more stuff that I could talk about, but what I wanted to go into here is under personality. It's got this called Astroclick Portrait. Now, I found this really helpful when I was learning, because it shows you your chart, but it allows you to click on the icons, and then it will list the planet and the aspects it's making, the location of the planet, the sign of the planet, and then it'll give you a little explanation of that for for all these different scenarios and stuff, which is really interesting when you're first starting out, because you just want to read everything, and you kind of want to read it all, take it in, mush it up, and then whatever sticks, and what doesn't stick, let it go. But there's this explanation, which is written by one person, and then there's alternate ones. I think the initial one is Robert Hand, and then there's another fellow named Robert also that reads these alternative ones. So there's 2 little paragraphs for every placement or every situation. I just clicked on the moon in this particular case. You could click on Venus here, and for example, Maryland and Venus in the 9th. So Venus in the 9th house, what does that pertain? Venus in Aries, what does that pertain? Venus with the midheaven, that's a whole thing in its own right. And then these other aspects that Venus makes. So it gives you immerses you kind of in every location of the particular planets. What it doesn't do is blend the whole chart together. And that's what a person's life is. No one aspect, no one placement, no one thing is a black cloud laying over the top of you. Every chart is unique as a fingerprint, as unique as your DNA. There's no generic explanation of one person's chart that's going to absolutely, relate to your chart. So, and this is kind of a little bit of a pet peeve, a little bit of a problem with the astrology, is that, people hear something, or I don't know, you're talking about the chart of a unscrupulous person, and they have a similar aspect to somebody else, and they kind of, get a little overly concerned about that. You can't personalize individual, isolated, stuff, and then, relate it to somebody else. It's a fingerprint and stuff. So there are similarities though, but you gotta, remove yourself from it. Anyway, is that a tangent? So that was really interesting. So you can click on everything there, and it's just a lot of reading. And what I found years ago is I read everything over and over and over and over. Maybe that's just me, but it takes a while for it to stick. And it's just fascinating. There is another here, personal pro. Okay, then we'll go personal profile. It's kind of a generic explanation of more stuff, which is really interesting. And this starts to blend. You get the sun in Gemini with the moon in Aquarius. So you're blending 2 planets here, interesting. There's another one here, locational astrology. I found this was really neat. Not that I'm not a really big traveler and stuff like that, but it was just interesting. And this is like the extent of my knowledge. This is a whole subject in astrology. It's called astrocartography. But it is still kind of neat. It lays out the whole Earth and how the chart blends with traveling and stuff like that. So you can click on these little lines or wherever they crisscross, and then you'll get a big explanation of that influence. So, if a particular person, like I did a report on Jim Morrison, and we used Los Angeles, we used Florida, and we used France, and I was using the different locations and stuff to see if there was a correlation or, so it was kind of interesting, how when he was living in Los Angeles, his career and stuff like that was one thing, and when he was living in Florida, it was another experience. And I believe the Connecticut event, there's some locational interesting things about that. I don't want to talk too much about it, but that's kind of a tool. And there's astrologers out there that really kind of specialize in this. And it's really kind of helpful if you want to relocate your whole life and stuff to find an interesting place that works with your chart. So it's just one more fun tool that we use in astrology that is quite amazing. And this free site is pretty darn awesome. So you can come over here to extended chart drawings again. I just wanted to show that you can come down here and get a natal. So the original chart you created was a natal chart, and then you want to get a natal chart and a transit chart, and that will bring up the chart with the normal chart, and then you have these green glyphs, and those are the current locations, real time, and how they're involved in the chart. So right away, you got the analysis of the natal chart, and now we're already into transits here. It's just a way to bring this chart up. I wanted to show you, and because this is like real time. Obviously, this is the chart of Marilyn Monroe. So what you can find and stuff is that I have found people that look at the transits of people that have passed away, and like, how do I say this? Like, let's say, for example, you had an author, and they get some certain transit to their chart, and their books, even though they've passed away for a long time, suddenly their books will start selling or start being popular again, and you can correlate it to a transit in their chart, even though they've already passed away. They're the mark they've left. I'm not saying I've studied this and stuff like that, but I've watched things where people have used that technique and laid out the information and stuff. It's just fascinating. I believe they were talking about what was that guy's name? I want to say Van Gogh, the artist. I want to say it was him, but I don't know. I think it might be confusing him with somebody else. I don't know. Hope that's not too much off on a tangent there. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that. I don't know how long I've been going here, but I haven't flubbed up too much. So I'm going to bring it back to here, and then I'm going to bring up this guy and just say hello again, and thanks, and see if I edit this and this works. I'm going to try and look into the camera instead of looking at my screens. Anyway, have a good day. We're just getting started. Graybeard Astrology. See you.